She had the most enchanting beauty in the world. People believed she was the fairest woman alive. But on the day of her wedding, a strange storm brought a deadly plague. The king became the first victim. To escape the disease, he built a tall tower, and locked himself away from the world. He watched people outside suffer, while he calmly brushed his long hair every day. He never realized the plague was spreading through the wind. Soon, her beautiful appearance began to rot away. Her painful screams could even be heard across the sea. For hundreds of years, her story was passed down through generations, but no one knew if it was real, until girls from nearby villages started disappearing one after another. The whole village fell into panic. The villagers blamed the rulers for their suffering. At that time, Germany was under French occupation. To calm the angry villagers, the government brought in 2 fake demon hunters to uncover the truth. If they failed, they would be executed, and those 2 men were none other than the famous Brothers Grimm. The villagers told them about the strange events. A few days earlier, a brother and sister entered the forest, looking for the legendary gingerbread house. They left breadcrumbs behind, trying to mark their way back. But when the sister tried to return, a tree branch suddenly pulled off her scarf. She reached out to grab it, but the scarf seemed to move on its own, slowly leading her deeper into the forest. It disappeared into a crack in the rocks. The girl pulled the scarf away, but countless bugs suddenly crawled out. By the time her brother realized something was wrong, she had already vanished. After hearing the villagers' story, the brothers didn't believe it. They thought it was just another trick. After all, they made a living doing the same thing, creating fake mysteries, then pretending to solve them, and collecting rewards from people. But to investigate the forest, they needed someone who knew the area. No villager wanted to go, so the job was given to a hunter girl, Angelica. Her father and sister had also disappeared in the forest. Because of that, the villagers believed she was cursed, so she didn't want to return there either. But when the torturer Cavaldi threatened her, she had no choice. She joined the Brothers Grimm, and entered the forbidden forest. The forest was full of danger. Crows screamed from every direction. They walked through paths covered with thorns, until they finally saw an abandoned tower standing in the woods. This tower once belonged to the king. Angelica told the brothers the legend behind it. Jacob became fascinated by the story, and wrote everything down in his book. Will wanted to climb the tower, and search for clues. But inside the tower, there were no stairs, and no hidden passages. So they decided to return the next morning, with proper equipment. Before nightfall, they finally returned to the village. That night, a little girl woke up because of a strange sound. She grabbed a lantern, and went outside to investigate. The noise was coming from the stable. Seeing the horse acting strangely, the girl walked closer to comfort it. But suddenly, her hand got stuck by spider webs inside the horse's mouth. No matter how hard she struggled, the webs would not break. Instead, they kept growing longer. In seconds, the webs covered her entire body, and the horse swallowed her whole. At that moment, the Brothers Grimm arrived, and witnessed everything. They were about to save her, but Angelica chased after the horse first. The horse carried the girl into the forest. Angelica followed close behind, but suddenly, vines shot out from both sides of the path, and threw her off the horse. The Brothers Grimm arrived moments later, but they were blocked as well. They couldn't believe what they saw. The trees were moving by themselves, as if they had legs. This was clearly not some human-made trick, and the danger inside the forest was only beginning. The forest swallowed one soldier after another. These soldiers were sent there to monitor the Brothers Grimm, but none of them came back. When the general heard the news, he became furious. He refused to believe in anything supernatural. He thought rebels were hiding inside the forest. He threatened the Brothers Grimm. If they couldn't find the person behind everything, they would be executed, and Angelica would suffer the same fate. So the group returned to the village once again. We'll plan to pretend to obey the general, then find a chance to escape. But Jacob wanted to stay, and uncover the truth. He had always believed in ancient legends. More importantly, he didn't want Angelica to be punished. He wanted to help her find her missing father and sister. Hearing this, Will became even more angry, because when they were young, Jacob traded their cow for magic beans. That mistake left their sister without money for treatment, and she eventually died. Now, Jacob wanted to save someone else's sister. Will couldn't accept it. Angelica understood why Will was upset. She knew he was only trying to protect his brother, just like her own father once protected his family. She tried to comfort Will, but Jacob happened to see them together. Seeing his brother close to Angelica, Jacob misunderstood the situation. He ran into the forest alone. He wanted to prove that the legend was real. Deep inside the forest, Will and Jacob argued, but when Will saw his brother begging him to believe him, and remembered the mistakes from the past, he finally agreed to help. The two brothers reached the tower. Using ropes and pulleys, they slowly climbed to the top. Jacob discovered 12 stone coffins surrounded the tower. They were arranged evenly, like the numbers on a clock. Then, he climbed through a window into the tower. Inside, everything was covered with dust and spider webs. Although the place was abandoned, it was clear that it was once extremely luxurious. On the table, there was a book of spells. Looking at the drawings inside, and connecting them with the 12 coffins, Jacob immediately thought of the missing girls. he realized. Their disappearance might be connected to this tower. Meanwhile, a little girl from the village went to a well to collect water. Suddenly, a crow fell into the well. The girl quickly pulled up the bucket and rescued the crow, but the crow suddenly flapped its wings. Mud flew everywhere, covering the girl's face. She tried to wipe it away, but something terrifying happened. Her facial features started disappearing. She couldn't speak, and she couldn't call for help. The girl ran home in fear. Behind her, a strange creature made of mud followed closely. Angelica saw what happened. She immediately picked up the girl and pushed her inside the house. Then she grabbed a weapon and prepared to fight the mud creature outside. But even after being cut apart, the creature quickly put itself back together. It stretched out its long arm, reached through the doorway, and grabbed the girl inside. The mud creature carried the girl away. At the same time, Will was waiting at the bottom of the tower. Suddenly, a girl slowly rose from the water nearby. It was Sasha, the same girl taken away by the mud creature. Will was about to save her, but then, he heard a wolf howl in the distance. He quickly hid behind a rock. A wolf stood up on two legs. Its body slowly changed, and it turned into a human. The wolfman picked up the girl from the water and carried her back to the tower. The girl had lost consciousness. She was placed inside a stone coffin. The wolfman put crystal shoes on her feet, then took a drop of blood from her finger. Meanwhile, Jacob discovered the Real Queen inside the tower. She was lying on the bed. Her body was dried up, and her beauty had completely faded. A crow flew in and delivered medicine to her mouth. Jacob was shocked. She was still alive. He tried to escape, but accidentally hit a mirror. Outside the mirror, the tower was old and broken, but inside the reflection, everything looked beautiful and luxurious. The queen inside the mirror was still young and beautiful, but in reality, everything was controlled by a pair of old, dried hands. Down below, Will noticed the wolfman approaching. The situation became dangerous. He picked up a stone and threw it toward the tower. The stone hit the mirror. Cracks spread across the glass. The illusion disappeared, and Jacob finally woke up. At the same time, the wolfman approached Will with a weapon. Just before he was attacked, Jacob used the queen's long hair and jumped down from the tower. He landed on the wolfman, knocking him unconscious. The two brothers escaped danger for the moment. Jacob told Will what he discovered. The queen had learned dark magic. She cast a spell of eternal life, but the spell failed. Instead of staying young forever, she was trapped inside the tower, slowly rotting away. The brothers returned to the village, with Sasha, and the wolfman's weapon, but soon, they discovered something terrible. Sasha had no breath, and no heartbeat. The old woman in the village believed it was the queen's curse. When the eclipse arrived, the girl would die completely. Jacob quickly understood. The queen needed 12 young girls. As sacrifices, she planned to use the eclipse to restore her youth. And Sasha was the final sacrifice. There was almost no time left. At that moment, a huge army entered the village. They surrounded everyone. The general had lost all patience. The Brothers Grimm still hadn't found the person behind everything, so he ordered the entire forest to be burned down. He also tied the two brothers to a tall ladder, planning to burn them together with the trees. Cavaldi had witnessed the magic with his own eyes, but he knew the general would never believe it, so he didn't dare defend the brothers. With the order given, the soldiers immediately set the forest on fire. The flames spread quickly. The fire was about to consume the Brothers Grimm, but Angelica suddenly appeared, wearing animal skins. She rushed into the flames. She cut the ropes and saved the two brothers. The three of them escaped deeper into the forest, but before they got far, they came face to face with the wolfman. The wolf slowly transformed back into a human and removed his mask. Angelica immediately recognized him. It was her missing father. Years ago, Angelica's father entered the forest while hunting. A sudden snowstorm trapped him there. When he was close to freezing to death, the queen sent a crow to save him. After that, his heart was cursed by magic, and he became the queen's most loyal servant. Even after seeing his daughter again, he was still controlled by the spell, and raised his weapon against her. The Brothers Grimm quickly stepped in. During the struggle, Angelica accidentally fell into a pool of water. The wolfman took out a magical object, and froze the entire surface. Jacob smashed the ice desperately, but could only watch Angelica sink beneath the water. The wolfman disappeared into the forest. Meanwhile, the queen inside the tower sensed what happened. She simply used her magic, and the massive forest fire was instantly put out. The soldiers were terrified by the impossible sight. They ran away in panic. Even the general couldn't believe what he saw. Elsewhere, the wolfman carried the unconscious Angelica and placed her inside the 12th stone coffin. The sacrifice ceremony was about to begin. Several crows carried the wolfman back to the tower. He prepared to help the queen complete the ritual. But suddenly, Jacob broke into the tower. He tried to stop the queen, but she easily knocked him away. Jacob picked up a weapon again, but the queen used her magic, and the weapon flew straight into the wall. At that moment, Will climbed into the tower using a rope. The red moon lit up the forest. It was the perfect time for the sacrifice. The queen drank the girl's blood, preparing to complete her spell. Will and Jacob tried to stop her, but they were not real demon hunters. They couldn't fight against the queen's powerful magic. The two brothers were soon controlled by her spell. They picked up weapons and started attacking each other. At the critical moment, Will suddenly stopped. Jacob's weapon struck his brother. As their fight came to an end, the queen's magic began to disappear. Will collapsed to the ground. His life slowly faded away. Jacob looked at his brother, not knowing how to save him. The queen created an illusion, making Jacob believe Will was still alive. Desperate to save his brother, Jacob took out his magic beans. The queen touched Will, and he suddenly stood up again. But in reality, Will was still badly injured. He slowly crawled toward the queen. Seeing his young and handsome face, the queen immediately removed the magic spike from her old servant and placed it into Will's body. The spell began to backfire. The queen screamed in pain. Cracks appeared across her face, and her body started breaking apart. At the same time, Angelica's father regained control of himself. Remembering how the queen had used his daughter as a sacrifice, he became furious. He grabbed the magic mirror and rushed toward the tower window. The controlled Will followed him, and both of them fell from the tower. As the mirror shattered, the queen lost all her power. Her broken body turned into dust. Without the magic protecting it, the tower began collapsing. Bricks and stones fell everywhere. In the middle of the chaos, Jacob hid inside a mattress. Seconds later, the entire tower collapsed. After the dust settled, Cavaldi entered the ruins and rescued Jacob. Looking at Angelica still sleeping inside the stone coffin, Cavaldi remembered the old fairy tale. He told Jacob that only a true love's kiss could wake her. Jacob removed his glasses and gently kissed Angelica. A few seconds later, Angelica opened her eyes. The two finally understood what they meant to each other. At the same time, the other girls inside the coffin slowly woke up, but Will still showed no sign of waking. Seeing this, Angelica tried to wake him, and somehow, Will finally opened his eyes. When they returned to the village, warm sunlight covered the land again. The missing children finally returned to their families. The villagers were free from fear and panic. Everyone celebrated together on the grass. Then Cavaldi took out something. It was Jacob's book of legends. The book had not been destroyed. Cavaldi had secretly saved it. Angelica returned with her sisters and thanked the Brothers Grimm. After everything they experienced, the brothers decided to change their lives. They began writing down the legends they had discovered, because now, they were already famous, and they no longer worried about their stories being ignored. Just like every fairy tale ending, the Brothers Grimm lived happily ever after.